I've just had this kitchen cabinet installed into my studio, and I'm going to be creating a mosaic backsplash all the way around. And I'm thinking around about 200 millimeters high. It doesn't have to be too high, the backsplash, because it's really going to be for cosmetic purposes only. This is not going to get a lot of use. But I still want to make sure that I actually waterproof it for when it does get used. I don't want any water to get in underneath the actual backsplash. Now the design I'm looking at doing is going to be a colourful abstract design, and that's going to work well for this area because it'll bring a bit of colour into it as well. I'm going to be using 10mm thick Thermasheet board because it's a lightweight board, and I can directly adhere that. When I've completed the mosaic, I can directly adhere that to the actual wall here. So I can actually do the design flat directly onto the Thermasheet. I won't need to use mesh or anything like that. And then when I've completed that, I can adhere it straight to the wall with construction adhesive, and then I can then grout it. So it should go quite smoothly. Now, because the Thermasheet is 10 millimeters, and then I'm going to be using tessera, which is going to be around 3 to 5 millimeters, I'm going to be actually probably using a tile header all the way around there, an edging tile. So what I need to do is do some measurements. This unit is around about 1800 by 600, but it's not exactly that. And I need to think how I'm going to finish the sides, whether I'm going to put actual the tile header up the side of the wall here. I probably will. So I need to deduct that from the actual Thermasheet board as well. So anyway, I'm going to do some thinking about it and make sure that's the way I'm going to proceed with this particular job. And then I'll get into cutting the Thermasheet. Well, I've got the Thermasheet firmly on the table here. I've used a couple of clamps, one at each end, to hold the piece of straight edge because I'm going to run the saw along there so it stays nice and straight. And the Thermasheet or the straight edge is not going to move. So I'm pretty well good to go, but I just thought I would show you exactly what my setup is. Now that doesn't mean that you need to do it this way. This is the way that I've done it, and it also keeps my hands and fingers firmly away from the saw blade. Now I can use a jigsaw to cut this Thermasheet, but I'm actually going to be using this hand saw because it's going to be quite easy for me to use, and it's quite easy stuff to cut anyway. Now I'm going to be cutting 3 sections, each one going to be 200 millimeters high because that's the height of the backsplash. So I'll be cutting this sheet into 3 parts. And of course the wind is blowing away from me as well, and it's always advisable to wear a dust mask. And now all I need to do is just make sure that the actual saw stays vertical along this straight edge. And I'm just taking my time, and I also need to grab hold of this area here so the sheet doesn't drop, or this area that I'm cutting off doesn't drop. And of course the wind has now changed direction, so it's great to be wearing a P2 or an N95 dust mask. There you go. Beautiful, and I can also get a bit of sandpaper along there if I want to sand that bit of edge back, but I don't think it's really necessary. Now when it comes to doing this corner, I'm actually going to have this piece of Thermasheet hard up against this wall here. And then what I'm going to do is also have this piece of Thermasheet hard up against that piece of Thermasheet. Then what I'm able to do is I'll draw a line on this piece of Thermasheet to the thickness of this piece, which is going to be 10 mil, because that's how thick the Thermasheet is. So I'm going to come in 10 millimeters from this edge here. The idea is that when I use the tile, or rather the tessera, because it won't be just tiles, it'll be all sorts of different media, I will be able to then draw a line that's mosaicked onto this piece of Thermasheet, draw a line up through there, and that will allow me to see where I need to start the tessera here. So this sheet will slide in behind the tessera that's on here, and you'll have a very, very neat join. I'm not going to cut this end off here just yet. I'll leave that a bit later on. I'll probably do that when I start look at mosaicing this piece here. Now when it comes to the other end, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having this tile up here, and it's going to be on the edge of this bench. So it's flush with the edge here. And then I'm going to put a mark there. I'll get a straight edge, mark up there so it's all nice and vertical. And then what I can do is adhere this to the actual wall. When I've mosaic this will be adhered to the wall as well, and this will butt up to the edge of this tile, and then I can put further tiles along this edge here like that. So I think it'll look quite good. And the other end that we're just talking about will have a tile up on the edge of its end as well. So I think that'll look really quite good. I can cut this Thermasheet whenever I'm ready. Certainly before I begin mosaicing, and this particular length across here will be ready to go, and I won't do any cutting on the far end until I'm ready to start mosaicing that, then I can then cut it.